There's going to be a new Smash game eventually. Probably not anytime soon, but eventually. So a while back I asked Twitter what video game character they think has a guaranteed slot in the next Smash Games roster, whether they want them or not, to find out which character is the most expected to make it in as a newcomer. Some of the most common responses were Noah and or Mio from Xenoblade 3, Pepsi-chan from Fire Emblem Engage, and of course, Waluigi. Yeah guys, sure. But there was one character who got way more responses than anyone else, by a considerable margin, that being the Octolings from Splatoon, most likely as a clone or Echo Fighter for Inkling. And I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Splatoon 1 came out after Smash 4 and quickly became incredibly popular, with it even getting a sequel before the next Smash game was announced, making Inklings, the main character of Splatoon, by far the least surprising Smash newcomer in history. I mean, they even announced the next Smash game in a trailer meant to look like a Splatoon thing at first, letting their confirmation be completely overshadowed by the announcement of a new Smash game itself. I don't think a single person looked at this and was like, oh my god, Inklings in Smash? No way. Cause like I said, it was obvious they'd be in the next Smash game anyways. So yeah, a new Splatoon character, namely an Octoling, seems to be by far the most expected newcomer in Smash Bros. 6. But there's one big problem with that. They just wouldn't work. And in this video I want to go over why they wouldn't and give some alternative ideas that could actually make them work. Something that does work pretty well though is this cool obscure game I'm sure you've never heard of before, available on both PC and mobile that recently reached its 5th anniversary and wants you to join in on the celebrations. I'm of course talking about Raid Shadow Legends, very obscure game indeed. From now until May 30th, you can play a special Spring Hunt minigame through which you can win a PlayStation 5, some Amazon gift cards with a total value of $10,000, or some cool in-game stuff of course. You can find details of the event at the link in my description. Like I said, Raid just turned 5, and they're still adding a ton of content. Last September they added Mythical Champions, which are a new rarity of summons that all have the ability to swap between two forms, bringing high level of versatility and a higher skill ceiling, which is always fun. The Cursed City was also added not too long ago, which is a gigantic campaign with 100 different stages to clear, including ones where you'll have to take on 2 of the game's bosses at once, and clearing these stages can get you a free Mythical Champion, so you can easily get into the fun of using them. Speaking of free champions, you can use the link in my description or scan the QR code on screen to get a huge starter pack with an energy refill, an EXP boost, 2000 silver, an epic skill tome, and the epic champion Tyrell, who is apparently considered one of the strongest champions in the game thanks to his high-powered debuffs. But it doesn't end there, cause once you reach level 25, you'll get another free bundle of goodies thanks to this deal, including more of everything I just mentioned and another epic champion, namely Rector Drath, yet another super powerful support character. So go check out the game, and once you do, you can even join my in-game clan, the PJiggles, if you want, so we can be legends together. Just scan the QR code on screen to get started. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for supporting the channel today, and now let's get back to talking about those funny octopuses. Okay, let's give a quick background on Splatoon's Octolings for those who don't know who they are. If Inklings are a fusion between human kids and squids, Octolings are the same thing except with octopuses instead of squids. In Splatoon 1, they were just enemies in the game's single-player story mode that had the exact same abilities as your player character. They can shoot ink, swim in ink, all that good stuff. And hidden within the game's code were unused files, suggesting that they were plans to be playable in some way before that idea got scrapped, which became extremely well known in the game's community. In the game's sequel, they filled the exact same role in the story mode and were once again not playable and retained their fantastic AI, as you can see. Until a couple months after launch when Nintendo released the downright incredible DLC campaign known as Octo Expansion, in which you play as an Octoling, and beating it allowed you to finally play as them in actual online matches. And in Splatoon 3, the newest Splatoon game, Octolings are once again playable, but this time at the start at no additional fees. You can just choose which species you want to be, making it non-canon if the game's main character is an Octoling or Inkling, since they can be either, which is pretty cool. In actual gameplay, there is absolutely no difference between the two, with all the changes just being cosmetic, such as Inklings turning into a squid and Octolings turning into an octopus, which also has no gameplay differences. Because they've become such a mainstay in the Splatoon series, even appearing on the box art of Splatoon 3, a lot of people are expecting them to make it into the next Smash game in some form, most likely as an Echo Fighter since like I said, they play the exact same as Inklings in Splatoon, and the fact that there's no difference between them is a big part of the story as well. Dark Pit plays the exact same as Pit in Kid Icarus Uprising and has the same abilities. And I mean, look how that turned out. He's an Echo Fighter of Pit and just plays a bit differently, using a few different weapons from their game. And hey, Splatoon also has a big variety of weapons. Octolings are like the easiest Echo Fighter ever, right? Just have them use some different weapons like the Dynamo Roller instead of the regular roller, for example, and boom, different character. The big problem with this, however, lies in Inkling's main mechanic, ink. There's just not enough colors. This is the main argument against Octolings making it to Smash, and the most common counter-argument is always, yes there are, Splatoon has plenty of colors, end of discussion. And that's where the argument usually ends, probably because people really don't like the idea of their most wanted character being, quote-unquote, impossible to work in Smash. Which I guess is fair to an extent, as a longtime Geno pusher I get the feeling, but I really do want to dive deeper into the issue here. You gotta keep in mind that Smash is a game that can be played by 8 players at once, which also means 8 Inklings at once, and to differentiate them all, they were each given a different ink color to shoot, and also because it's a fun reference to Splatoon since you can also shoot different ink colors there, obviously. It's very important that you can tell which color comes from which Inkling, as for example, the ink on the ground slows down everyone except the Inkling who created the ink. Currently, Inkling uses 8 different colors, those being orange, blue, yellow, green, pink, cyan, purple, and indigo. And yes, I know, there are way more colors than that available in Splatoon, which the Octolings could theoretically use instead. The problem is that because you'd need 8 distinct colors for all of Octolings' alts, you're eventually just gonna have to use different shades of colors already used by the Inklings. Red is the only primary color missing, which it is for a reason, because Splatoon doesn't use that color under normal circumstances, since it would look too much like blood. If they, for example, were to use the Lumi green color from Splatoon 1, it would look too much like the regular green already used by Inkling's 4th costume in Smash, especially at a great distance, which is possible because of the large stages available in Smash, which again you can do with 8 different Inklings, which would make similar colors even harder to differentiate. I know it sounds dumb, but this really is the biggest problem with Octolings joining Smash as an Echo Fighter. There are just not enough distinct colors available, especially if they put the same restrictions on colors as Splatoon, such as no red ink or white ink, for obvious reasons. When Steve was being developed, Sakurai and his team ran into some issues with being able to spot the Enderman alt on some dark stages. He even created a Where's Waldo style game for his staff to find Enderman on some darker backgrounds, which eventually led them to making Enderman a bit brighter in Smash than they are in Minecraft. I know it's not really the same problem here, but it does show that Sakurai put some importance behind being able to spot fighters from a great distance, and being able to tell who it is. So even though Octolings seem to be the most expected newcomer, I personally don't see it happening for this reason. But it'd be boring to just leave it at that, so I want to give some alternatives to how it could happen. Starting with the most likely solution to me, Octolings could just be palette swaps of Inkling, like what Alf is for Olimar. They could take the current last 4 costumes Inkling has and replace them with Octolings, 2 female and 2 male. There's even some perfect outfits for them already, with both their agent costumes and casual costumes used in promotional material. This is the easiest solution, but it's also the most boring, I get that. People love Octolings, and with how massive Splatoon is, especially in Japan, seriously it rivals Pokemon there in terms of popularity, I could definitely see some outrage happening if Octolings were just relegated to being palette swaps, even though that's what they are in Splatoon. So to lessen that impact a bit, they could still do something unique. My idea being that upon selecting an Inkling skin, you can swap to playing as an Octoling with that ink color instead, making it so you can't, for example, have blue Inkling and blue Octoling in the same match, even though they're both available in the game. This seems even more unlikely to me, but it's an idea I still wanted to throw out there. It'd be interesting if anything else. Another solution would be to still make Octolings an Inkling Echo Fighter, but with the main difference being that they don't use any ink at all, instead just being a version of Inkling that does more damage overall or has better movement or something, but without the benefit of making enemies take more damage by covering them in ink. I know it sounds boring to just have an Echo Fighter that removes what makes the original character unique, but hey, look at that, Lucina and Chrom are in the game. They literally do just that. Mart's whole gimmick is that his moves are really strong if you hit the tip of his sword, which his Echo Fighter, Lucina, removes entirely. And Roy's whole gimmick is that his moves are really strong if you hit with the base of his sword, which his Echo Fighter, Chrom, removes entirely. And most people agree that these are good Echo Fighters. They like how they play, so I don't think it'd be too frowned upon to have an inkless Inkling clone. The problem with this is that ink is like the biggest thing setting Splatoon apart from other shooters. It's what the whole series is about, honestly. You shoot ink, you swim in ink, you cover the map in ink to win, etc, etc. It also wouldn't really fit Octolings, cause like I said, they've historically been the exact same as Inklings. They've used ink just the same since the very start. But I do think it'd be a worthwhile idea to tackle. Who knows, maybe they won't put in Octolings at all, but instead a different Splatoon character. Though there really aren't many options in that case. Almost every other character is also an Inkling or an Octoling. What are they gonna do? Put in Big Man? Actually, that sounds pretty dope if you ask me. I'm down for that. Put Big Man in Smash, you cowards. But yeah, that's what I think of Octolings' current status when it comes to joining Smash. I'm curious to see what they'll do when the time finally comes, if they'll do anything at all with them in the first place. Let me know if you got any ideas on how they could work. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And please don't take this as me saying I don't want Octolings in Smash. I actually really like Splatoon and I wouldn't mind seeing them make it into the next Smash game at all. I'm just trying to also be somewhat realistic about it. Big thanks as usual to Lime the Chef, Sil700, The Flying Fire, Giant Firing Coal, LurFX1, Herc, Exobear, Sheen for the win, and the rest of my Patreon supporters, both past and present. If you also want your name to show up as name tags in future Smash videos, be sure to check out my Patreon for that perk. This kind of shorter video, which doesn't take as long to make as my usual stuff, is something I'm doing right now because I'm currently in the middle of moving and thus don't have a lot of time to work on stuff. But if you like it, I wouldn't mind doing it more often. Let me know your thoughts on that and also some other potential shorter video ideas you'd like to see. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. You can check it out in the description. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed. And please, have yourself a splatastic rest of your day. Yeah, I'm sorry.